Hi, so I'm doing something new today. I'm doing something I've never done before. I am doing a mystery ornament challenge, which means I will be picking the design and the colors for my ornament completely at random. This is my first challenge video, and I hope to do more of these. If you keep watching, if you like it, please give me a thumbs up. Okay, let's get to choosing. Okay, first I'm going to choose a design, and I have 17 possible designs to choose from. The ones on the left in black are my freebie designs. These are beginner level designs that basically you can find anywhere on my YouTube channel or on my website. Designs that I don't have behind any kind of paywall. And if I get one of these designs, I will do a full tutorial video in this challenge. The red side, those are my paywalled designs. And so if I choose one of those designs, it'll be a shorter video so you can kind of see what the possibilities are with those designs, but I'm not going to go through and make a full tutorial. But anyway, I still wanted to include them in the challenge because sticking to the basic stuff, I don't know, felt kind of boring. Anyway, let's move on. Next, I will choose the number of colors I can use in the design, and I've decided to use up to 6 colors. And next, I will choose the colors that I'm going to use, and I've included all the basic colors of the rainbow, also black, white, gold, silver, pink, and gray. And I'm going to reserve the right to adjust the shade of the color according to what I have in my stash. A few more rules for my challenge. I must use a standard 8 centimeter foam ball, and I have to use what I have in my stash right now. I cannot go out and buy anything new. All right, so I've cut up little pieces of paper and put all of those different choices in these jars, and I'm going to go ahead and choose these at random. So all right, a Four Division Reflection Ornament. That is one of my freebie designs, so I will be doing a full tutorial. Next, let me choose the number of colors that I'm allowed to use. So for this challenge, I'll be using 3 different colors. All right, now let's choose the 3 colors. The first color is gold. Second color is black. And the third color is purple. Okay, let's review. I've chosen a 4 division reflection design with 3 colors, and the 3 colors I can use are gold, black, and purple. The first thing I need to do is mark my ball. So draw the lines on my ball for my 4 division reflection design. And I've got my tools and my cheat sheet. This is a chart I made with all of the math already done for me for all the possible divisions on all of the different size balls that I have. I'll mark the North Pole at the top of the ball and the South Pole on the bottom. I have factory markings on my balls to help me find these points. If your ball does not have factory markings, I have another video, which I will link in the description, that will show you how to find the North Pole, South Pole, and equator of your ball. Now I need to look on my chart to find the correct measurement for a 4 division. So I'm using an 8 centimeter ball and a 4 division. So my measurement is 6.28 centimeters. The first mark can go anywhere on the equator. And then from there, I will measure out 6.28 centimeters. And I'm going to round up because 0.28 is a little difficult. So I'm just going to round up to 6 centimeters and 3 millimeters. To figure out the measurement for your ball, you'll need to find the circumference of your ball first and then divide the circumference by 4. And that will be the measurement between the 4 points. Check out my free PDF for more information about doing the math. All right, and I will continue marking those points until I get back to where I started. And I should have 4 equally distant points around the equator of my ball. And as you can see, I'm speeding up the video a bit. I'm going to be doing this from time to time, also skipping ahead, because otherwise we will be here for about 2 hours, and I don't want the video to be that long. Next, using my tape measure as a straight edge, I'm going to draw in my first line. I'm placing the tape measure from the North Pole through an equator point down to the South Pole and drawing in a line. And I'm going to continue this line all the way around the ball. Since we're doing a 4 division, I can do 2 lines that go all the way around the circumference of the ball, and that will divide my ball into 4 equal sections. 2 perpendicular lines, I should say. And doing it like this will keep those sections as even and symmetrical as possible. All right, now I'm drawing in the second line. And since I'm just using my tape measure as a straight edge here, it doesn't matter which part of the tape measure I use. I'm not doing any measurements. This part of the tape measure doesn't get used very often, so I know it's not warped and I'll get a nice straight line. Next, I'll draw in the equator, and I'm basically just tracing along the equator mold line that is already on my ball. And this is my basic design drawn on the ball. It is a 4 division reflection design. And now I'm going to cut all the lines that I drew about a centimeter deep. It's important when you're cutting into your foam ball that you have a blade that is very sharp. And that's why I like these retractable blades that you can just snap the end off and get a fresh blade on the end. It's very easy, and actually I've had this particular knife for like 10 years. I've been using the same knife and just replacing the blades as needed. And now I'm going to take my tucking tool, which is just an upholstery needle, and I'm going to run it through the cuts to widen the grooves a bit. This is important because this is going to help me tuck the fabric in the next step. If you skip this step, it'll make it harder to tuck in the fabric. All right, now I've had a look through my supplies, and I've got some purple satin fabric. This is a black glitter extra wide ribbon, and kind of looks in the video like it has some silver in it, but it actually doesn't. That's just, it's very highly reflective. So it's just black glitter. And I'm going to cut off the edges of the ribbon, which have wire on them. I don't need the wire, so I'm just going to cut that off. and I cut out a piece of the purple satin and gave it a good press so that it doesn't have any wrinkles in it. Something I often forget to mention when I'm making these ornaments is that if you've got particularly wrinkly fabric, you ought to iron it before you start tucking. I'm not going to try to press the glitter ribbon because I don't know what the heat would do to the glitter, so I'm just going to leave that alone. Here I am checking where the stretch in my fabric is. And I want to place my fabric on the sections of the ornament on a bias. If you're a sewist, then you understand about cutting on a bias. It's not strictly necessary. I've often made ornaments where I didn't pay attention to the direction of the stretch in the fabric at all. Sometimes you're more concerned with how the pattern or the motif looks on the ornament. So paying attention to the bias stretch of your fabric is totally optional. So anyway, I've placed the fabric over the top of the section, and I'm using my tucking tool to tuck a little bit of the fabric into the grooves around the section. And then I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to trim around. And then when I'm done trimming it down, then I'm going to finish tucking in the rest of the fabric. Because I cut the fabric on a bias, it makes it a lot easier to tuck in to the grooves and keep it smooth. It's easier to avoid puckers and wrinkles in your fabric. And there is my first section covered with fabric. And I will turn the ball over and start with the next section. And for this design, my purple sections will only touch at the corners on both the top and the bottom of the ball. And that goes the same for the black glitter sections. Only the corners of the sections will touch. I will not have any long edges touching any other long edges of the same color. And I'm going to skip ahead a bit. I think you get the idea for tucking in those purple sections. And here's the ball with all of the purple sections covered. Now, on to the black glitter. Now, this glitter ribbon is very stiff, whereas the satin was stretchy and pliable. This glitter ribbon has almost no stretch, and it's kind of thick and it's stiff and it's really difficult to work with. So rather than try to use a large piece, I'm going to make a cutting pattern and then cut out smaller shapes that will be easier to tuck. To make a cutting pattern, I'm taking this tracing paper and a pencil, and I'm roughly tracing the shape of the section onto the paper. Then I'm going to cut this out. And if I were going to be using quilt batting, which I'm not using for this ornament, this would be my quilt batting cutting pattern, but I'm not using quilt batting for this ornament. Then I'll use that shape that I just cut out, and I'm going to trace around it about a centimeter larger than the shape itself. And then I will cut that out, and that will be my fabric cutting pattern. And I'll place this on the back side of that glitter ribbon, and using some tailor's chalk, I will just trace around this. And I've got 4 sections to cover, so I will trace 4 pieces on this glitter ribbon, and then I will cut them out. Now, it is always better to make your pieces too big than it is to make them too small. If you cut them too small, then you're in trouble. You don't have enough fabric to tuck into the grooves. If you make them too big, you can always trim them down. So just keep that in mind when you're using fabric cutting patterns like this. Now, just like I did with the purple satin, I'm going to tuck the edges of these black glitter pieces into the grooves of the remaining sections. And I'll tell you that this black glitter ribbon is really difficult. It's really hard on my fingers, and I'm really having to use a lot of pressure to push the edges into the grooves, and it's taking me twice as long to tuck these sections as it takes to tuck in the satin sections. So just if you have any kind of arthritis at all, or if you lack any kind of hand strength, I think you ought to avoid using this kind of material. Stick to quilting cotton. Satin is fine. That was easy enough, but this glitter ribbon is really, really hard on my hands. The one good point about this glitter material is that it really diffuses the light a lot. And so if I get any sort of wrinkles or imperfections on the edges when I'm tucking, if it's not tucked in perfectly smooth, you really can't see it because the glitter has diffused the light so much that you can't see the imperfections. It's kind of the same thing with makeup in a sense, that if you have that, you know, a makeup on that is very light diffusing, it's sort of, it smooths out your skin. This is kind of the same thing where the glitter is diffusing the light so much that you can't see any of the imperfections in your tucking, which is good because the material is so difficult to use that I can't get it perfectly smooth. Hey, if you've made it this far into the video and you're enjoying it, why don't you give me a thumbs up? And if you're not subscribed, please subscribe to the channel. It really does help me reach more people, and you'll be doing me a big favor. All right, so I think you guys get the idea. And since we're already about 20 minutes into the video, I'm going to do a big jump ahead to the next step. All right, now I've got all the black glitter sections done, and I'm going to cover up the seams of my ornament with this gold ribbon. This is about a 9mm wide gold ribbon. And I have some gold pins, which are badly tarnished. They're very, very old. The only reason I mention that is because I saw a video recently of another ornament maker using the same kind of pins, and their pins were wonderfully, beautifully golden. And I realized that mine are very badly tarnished. So anyway, The main reason I chose this wide ribbon for this ornament is because my seams are not perfect because of that glitter material, and it was so hard to tuck in. I'd rather just cover it up with this wide ribbon. I like to melt the ends of my ribbons to prevent them from fraying. And this is a favorite tool of mine. It's a pin pusher, and it really saves the tips of my fingers. And I'm just going to continue pinning this ribbon over the top of all of the seams. So I'll be pinning, let's see, 1, 2, 3 lines of ribbon over all those seams. And if you happen to be hearing a bunch of crashing in the background, unfortunately, they've started construction right outside of my window, and there's nothing I can do about it. So I apologize for the noise. It's a common problem I have because I live in the city and on a major road, and there's been a lot of new development in my neighborhood in the past several years. Luckily, I'm not going for an ASMR quality sound. Alrighty, skipped ahead a bit, and now I've got all of those lines of ribbon pinned down. I've found some buttons that I think I'm going to use in the center of the purple sections. And I've got my glue stick out. And I'm going to try to find where the center of each of these purple sections is. And I will be gluing this button right to the center of that purple section. And because it's a button and it's got that little loop on the back of it, I've got to create a hole for that little loop to go into. So I'm just poking a little hole with my tucking tool and snipping the fabric just a tiny bit, just enough for the little loop to be able to be pushed into the foam. And the reason why I'm not just cutting off the loop on the back of the button is because the black piece has the loop on it and it snaps into the gold piece that's on the outside, that gold frame. So I'm afraid if I try to cut the loop off, that it won't be able to, the two pieces won't be able to snap into each other anymore. So I'd rather just leave it as is and instead just create a hole for that loop to go into. And I'm just gluing it down with some hot glue. And I will just repeat that on all 4 purple sections of the ball. And now that I've got all 4 of those buttons glued on, I'm looking at this and it's giving me very Snow White Evil Queen vibes with the colors here, and I'm really liking it. It's kind of cool. So it's still feeling a little bit plain to me. It still needs a little bit more of something. So I've pulled out this box of random old supplies that I have, and just seeing what I've got in here that could work. And I've got some strung gold sequins that I think could work. And this pack of metallic beads has some gold beads in it that I'd like to use. I don't usually use pre-strung sequins like this. I certainly didn't buy this. I have no idea where I got it, but it's been in my stash for ages. So I'm glad to finally be using it now. I actually really like the way this looks. And then I just want to mention that I'm going to try to cut this line of sequins as little as possible. So instead of cutting it at the top, I'm just going to turn the corner and pin it and continue on onto the next line. And then when I get back to my starting point, rather than cutting it right at the end where I'm finishing, I'm going to cut it a couple of sequins past that. I'll remove the sequins, maybe 4 or 5, and then I'm going to tie a knot in the string so that it doesn't all unravel, because the string for this line of sequin is it's cotton, it's not nylon, so I can't melt it. Now I'm going to pin a bead to the bottom of the ball. I'm threading one of these metallic gold beads onto a metallic gold pearl topped pin that I found in my stash. I only have 2 of them, so and I'll pin that right to the bottom of the ball, the south pole. Now I've decided to use this line of strung sequins. They're larger sequins than the previous ones, and I'm going to use this one around the equator of the ball. And I'll pin this on just like I did with the previous sequins. All right, and so the last thing I'm going to do is make a bow for the top of my ball. And unfortunately, my hands were off camera when I was doing a lot of this work. So if you want to know how I make the bows for the top of my ball, I do have another video. I will link that in the description below. And you can go and find out exactly how I make bows for all of my ornaments. All right, and once I've finished my bow, I'm going to pin it to the top of my ornament, right at the North Pole. And I didn't glue this, but I recommend that you glue your bows to the top, or at least reinforce it with some more pins. I didn't because I want to leave myself the opportunity to change this if I don't like it. If I was going to gift this or sell it, I would definitely be using glue. After taking a second look at the finished ball, I've decided to change up the bottom of this a bit. I'm going to add another bead to this long pin. I'm having a hard time getting that bottom pin straight. And so putting more large beads surrounding it will hide the fact that I can't get it straight. Now, the holes in these large metallic beads are quite large, and they're too big for my pins. The pins fall right through them. So I'm having to use tiny little clear seed beads on the end of my pin so that the pin doesn't fall right through the large hole. All right, and that is the final ornament, and I really like the way it turned out. I think it looks pretty good. Thank you so much for watching, and if you enjoyed this type of video, this challenge video, please leave a comment and let me know that you want to see more of this kind of video. Thanks again for watching until the end, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!